thanks to Shudder and MPI Media Group. They were great to work with. My name is Damian McCarthy. I'm the writer, director, and editor of Caveat. This is my first feature-length film after years of making short horror films. I was 34, 35 when I started working on this. I'm 40 now. Whenever I'd see a film I liked or get curious about a director, how old they were when they'd make their first film, I'd always check that up. How old were they when they started? And it was always a bad idea because they were always younger than I was. Like you'd see Sam Raimi was 19 when he made The Evil Dead, or these young people, these young filmmakers making such amazing films, sometimes before even turning 30. And I know you shouldn't be, it's not a good idea to compare yourself to other people, but it still added this pressure, this kind of pressure I was putting on myself, that another year has passed and I still haven't made a film. And I guess I always thought of Ridley Scott because he was 40 when he made his first film. So I was like, okay, if I can get a film made by the time I'm 40, I'll be okay. So I just made it. Now, having actually made a film, what I end up checking up now is, well, was the film easy to make, and did they like making it, and was it a good experience? Because this was not. I'm watching a lot of Francis Ford Coppola interviews lately talking about the making of Apocalypse Now, which is a notoriously difficult film to make. And he has this great quote where he says, "There were too many of us, we had access to too much money, too much equipment, and little by little we went insane." I mean, for this, there were too few of us. We'd access to too little money, too little equipment, but the going insane little by little over the years of this production, I can definitely relate to. This is my mom's foot cameo. She was helping out behind the scenes. We needed her one day just to stand in for a moment. The film was always supposed to start like this. I always wanted Olga to be led to her mother's corpse by the bunny. Now, if I'd had a bigger location, again a bigger budget, you would have. I'd like to have found her going up and down stairs and wandering around hallways and into all these different rooms. But you get the idea. She's being led somewhere. She's also operating the bunny there now. In her other hand, she's holding the control. What I did was I hooked a wire inside the bunny, and it's travelling up his ears, down her sleeve, down her back, and down into a little control that she's hiding. Now, usually it would be another crew member, somebody just out of frame, switching him on and off, but just the nature of the movement and the blocking, she had to do it herself. Which is kind of tough because she should be focusing on performance, and she has to work on this. She's got to work out the practical effect. But she did great. It was tough, but she managed it. The bunny was designed by Lisa Zagone, a very talented local prop maker, costume maker here in Cork. I just brought her in the bunny, and I had tried to make it myself, but it looked ridiculous. And then she did it, and it looked brilliant. And really happy with it. It did have hair on it and fur originally, but it took us so long to get financing. It all fell out. That's my pad saw from work. This is what she's doing here is pretty much what I do every day at work. I work as an electrician, as a labourer on building sites. So there's a lot of cutting out dry lining boxes and walls for switches and sockets and recessed lights and ceilings. This stuff that you do in your daily life just kind of finds its way into your stories. All of this was storyboarded. The match cut that's coming up, it was always the idea. I used to live in that apartment. I always thought the porthole on the door was cool. Now, there was a whole other sequence when he first goes to the apartment. I mean, he comes in, he finds a baby that's been left on his own. He waits for the baby. The mother comes home, he gets into a fight with the mother. The mother goes to get Barrett. And then we get a big sense of, or more of an idea of Barrett and Isaac's history. And it just seemed to go on. And I never liked it. That's why we're using these black cards here, these titles. It's just a way to disguise necessary dialogue that I needed from those chopped scenes. And how those scenes got chopped is that Richard Mitchell is the composer on this, and Richard has 20, 30 years in the industry, and he's one of the heroes of this film. I don't believe the film would have been finished without him. So the film is finished, and Richard shows it to a friend of his one night, and his friend is Ian Roberts, and Ian was a film critic. And he's now an author, a very talented writer. So he shows Ian the movie, and he tells me, Ian's tough, like he's going to give us an honest opinion. So they watch the movie, and the movie finishes, and Ian says to Richard, it's great. But he goes, what's all that stuff at the start? He's out. Film's great, everything works. But he goes, that scene at the start in the apartment. He goes, it's like a student film. He goes, it's like a completely different movie. He goes, it goes on for about 10 minutes. They're talking about stuff that we never come back to, which is true. We never come back to this baby he finds. It's all set up, but we never come back to it. So he just said, like, if there's a way that they can cut that, he goes, I think it would save the film, or it would help the film. And it was just a suggestion, of course. But he gave a really good argument with it, because he mentioned the old Wicker Man, the original Wicker Man. And in the Wicker Man originally, there was the title card here is by Laura Campos, another local artist, very talented. He said that in the original Wicker Man, that there was all these scenes that established the policeman before he goes to the island. But when they did it, they went like, well, nobody cares about this, just get him to the island. So this was the same thing. It was like, just get him to the island. We'll figure out what's going on. We'll get the relationship between these two guys. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of ambiguity if we don't. So now, of course, if you told me, I hate the ending, or I don't like, I don't know, the bunny is crap, or whatever it is, then you would ignore the suggestion, because it's like, well, I don't think so. I think it's good. But the fact that he singled out the one part of the movie that I knew was weak and I didn't like, and if I did show it to somebody, the one or two people I showed it before it was kind of released, I would squirm through those scenes, kind of going, thinking like, it gets better. Just once we get to the island, I promise there'll be more stuff like the opening sequence. So I did a very quick edit, and it was chopped out, and we didn't miss it. And it had nothing to do with performance. It didn't do anything like that. It was really just down to the script, the story structure, and the choice of location, because the location was so bland in comparison to the rest of the movie. Like, oh, this is great. This is all around West Cork now, where I grew up. So it had to go. And I think it was a choice that saved the film. Just, cutting to the chase, to just get on with it. Very lucky here that the water was just like glass. It was so calm. And there was no rehearsal or anything. The actors pretty much just said, yeah, we'll give it a go. And they jumped in, and away they went. My grandfather, this is Ellen's Rock in Glengarriff. My grandfather used to bring people in and out on a little boat like this out to Garnish Island. Garnish Island is just off the coast of West Cork. It's beautiful. It has Italian gardens because of this unique climate that he has, that the island has, where these flowers can grow. And he used to bring them in and out on these boats. So all this stuff, again, it just from your life, you find it kind of finds its way into your script. But it's great. And again, this is all local as well. The film itself we actually shot in Bantry House. The house itself is very beautiful, so it wouldn't have made sense for the story to have this amazing, grand location that's so well kept. But I said it to my friend Sam White. Sam is one of the owners of the house. He's in the family, and I said that I told him what I was doing, that I was trying to make this film, and he said, "Well, come up and look around," because he said there are older parts of the building that might be useful, and there was. So this is an existing place. So we said, "Great, we'll shoot this." But then also at the back of the house, there was this big room, this big empty space where you could actually build sets. So I said, God, this is perfect. We could actually have a mix of, I could actually build a few sets and also use a few of the real locations. So it's kind of, it just might work. So all this in was built by my best friend, Fenton Collins. I made a short film. It's my first good short film called He Dies at the End. And Fenton is the guy in He Dies at the End. So he's been helping me for a long time. A script writing tip that I learned a little bit too late after making the movie, once I was editing it, was that you should really try to keep your scenes around 4 minutes. Like this scene now, for example, it goes on for like 8 or 9 minutes originally, and it's just him trying to convince him to put on the harness, and they're going back and forth. But really, once I got into the edit, it was like at the 4 minute mark, it's done. It's like he's trying to convince him to put it on, and Isaac doesn't want to, so we need to just move on. And I found that happened a few times. So now when I write, I try to keep my scenes a lot shorter and just kind of get to the point. The harness itself was built by a friend of mine, Keely Harrington. Keely and I were both studying a night class, so we used to drive from Bantry to Cork. And just one night, just to pass the drive, I started telling her about this thing I was writing. It was originally called The Harness. The caveat came that was a very late idea to call it Caveat. The only reason it ended up being called Caveat really was because I thought of the poster, and I thought the V of Caveat would look cool with the bunny's ears. Um, so myself and Keely used to drive up and down to Cork, and one night just to pass the time, I started telling her about the story, and she said, "But I said I don't know how I'm going to make the harness. You know, it has to be made out of leather." And she said to me, "Oh, you know, I actually know how to make. I know how to work with leather. I know how to shape it and get it to and get it into whatever you want it to be." So she'd made belts and bracelets and stuff like this. It was just this hidden talent that she had, and we ended up just designing it, and she made it, and it's brilliant. It's a central prop. The long chain then is just like just some rusty old chain that we picked up a bucket of it one day, and we have this fair day in Bantry, and there was a guy just selling buckets of really long chains. So I bought that. This was Ben's first day. This is Ben Kaplan. Ben had a lot of experience. He'd been on a TV show called Call the Midwife for years. He plays a very nice guy in the show. It's a real romantic drama, and he had a lot of experience in plays and working with some really good directors. So he managed. I think he'd gotten the script through an actor friend of his, and the actor friend of his really liked it. But he thought Ben would be great for it, and Ben was looking to do something a little bit darker. And he thought the script was interesting, so we talked and we hit it off. And he came over, and I think we had him for 5 days, I think it was. And he was great to work with. His sideburns, he had just done a play, and he showed up. And my sister Miriam is a makeup artist and special effects. Luckily for me, so she worked on the film, and he showed up. He said, "What do you want to do with the sideburns?" She said, "Nothing, just leave them." So they work great. I think they kind of add something to him. Originally, I had all these plans of how to do this. I wanted us to set up like a little crane and put it above them to see the chain trailing away from them. I thought would have looked really nice. But it all came down to time. I mean, everything was storyboard in detail, but you do have to make these kind of battlefield decisions where you got to blend shots together, you got to just cut stuff, and like script writing, a lot of killing your darlings. The little bolt that he's sliding in there, I had a different bolt made. I had one that had a rabbit's head, a little wooden rabbit's head, that I thought would have looked cooler because you would have seen the ears sticking up for most of the movie. But it just disappeared on the first morning, so we had to quickly make another one. And what that is that's one of the wise monkeys. That's one of the see no evil monkey covering his eyes, a little bit like what Lila's doing. And you can see the 3 monkeys there on the table as well. I had those in my short film, He Dies at the End, so I put them in for luck. That bolt actually was very convenient for Hugo. Hugo and Sylvain were my sound recorders. They were just brilliant to work with. So what Hugo would do is he would hide a little a lapel mic behind that for a lot of it. I think so. He was delighted with it. He was like, "Great, I get to hide my mic in there." That's great. It's very odd behavior with Ben. He was very funny. He was very funny behind the scenes too. This then is the real location again. And the next few minutes are all Richard Mitchell's score, just to carry us through it, just to ease us into it. Richard wasn't a big horror fan. I don't think he'd really seen a whole lot of stuff, but it's just his instincts were great. I mean, everything in the film is just a little bit off. Like even like when is it set? Like what is the like when is this supposed to be set? It's something that's never. It's not supposed to be an 80s horror or anything like that. I just always like that if something's interesting, I'll put that in. I'll never explain away like, okay, there's a mobile phone shot and there's no signal. I mean that phone is going to age things more than anything. Whereas if you just keep it vague, nobody cares. There is a lot of, as I said earlier, there's a lot of luck involved in film in making a film and having a film turn out. And the luckiest thing here was finding Jonathan. He was just brilliant. Now there's a bit of a story with his casting because we had actually cast another actor, and like pretty much everybody, like 80% of the people on the film, he was just starting out, so he had no real credits, a few short film stuff like this. But and it was done. We were the sets were being finished, and everything looked like it was going to work out. But it was one day he just said he just wanted a lot more money. And this film had no money, so what he was asking for was just something that there was no way we could afford it. It was just like, look around, like nobody's any money. He just decided he wanted more money and a huge percentage of the film, by some miracle, if the film ever made money, that he wanted a big piece of that as well. And we said we just can't afford anything like that, And he said, okay, well then I'm going to go. And we said, oh, okay, there's nothing we can do because it just doesn't exist what he was asking for. So there was a desperate search then to find somebody, and luckily I found Jonathan. Now Jonathan has his own story with this as well. He says that like he was about to shave his beard, and of course his beard is such a part of the story, and he was about to shave it for, I think it was a short film or a music video or something, but he got a bad feeling about it anyway. He didn't, something about the guys he was going to work with, or whatever it was. It wasn't going to work out anyway, and he said, no, I'm not going to do it. So he left that. I don't think they were too happy with him. But then he said the next day then that I called him wanting to talk about a feature film, about him being the main guy in a feature film. And he thought it was the guys that he had walked from. He thought it was them fucking with him. Uh, so all those pots you see lying around, these are two different locations. So the door and this are like, they're on complete opposite sides of Bantry House. And those pots there, they're so heavy. So what I did was I had them here, and I filled up a wheelbarrow, and I carried them all the way to the other side of the property and dumped them out there. And it was just to tie it together, I guess, so you could see them there, and then you'd see them there. It was just, I was concerned that people mightn't believe that that dog was right outside his door when he wasn't. The dog's name is Charlie. I credited him as Jed. I called him Jed the dog, just for my own amusement. The name of my favorite movie is John Carpenter's The Thing, and the dog in that, the dog that shows up that's infected, is, his name is Jed. So I said, oh, fuck it, I'll just call him Jed. It's my little for no reason other than my own amusement. The dog was great. His eyes are crazy. I only had like 2 hours I only had 2 hours to work with him. So what I was doing was I would take a little piece of the meat and I would hold it up and I'd say, Charlie, Charlie, and he'd look up and you could see these mad wide eyes, and I'd throw him a piece of meat, and then we'd do it again. And he was nervous though, but it was great. I thought he was. I thought there was something kind of strange about the dog's behavior. His brother Mike, the guy with the red jacket that appears in the photograph he's holding, that's actually Sam. That's my friend Sam White from Bantry House. I just thought that him and Jonathan looked like brothers, so I put him in there. It's just a little thanks as well. Not that I think he cared. Sam's very relaxed. Yeah, I got lucky with all my cast. Really, it was such a small amount of actors that there was nowhere to hide. If anybody was bad, it would have shown, but they were great. Lila Sykes had worked with Justin on a short film. Justin was a producer. Justin's why all of this happened. Justin had actually seen He Dies at the End at Fright Fest in London years ago, and he said he found it inspirational that a film could be made for nothing and be so effective. So we ended up teaming up. So Justin had made a short film with Lila, and he said she was great to work with, so we brought her in, and there was only two other cast members that'll be coming up. There's so many other shots of just the landscape around the area that I'd like to film, but again, you don't want it turning into a tourist video. All this now is the very first thing that we filmed. So all this is that first morning. I think when you're shooting something, you try to start easy, and this seemed like a self-contained. This almost seemed like a short film, so it was really on familiar ground here. It's like, yeah, a guy comes in, things start to go wrong, and something spooky happens. So it's like, yeah, I know how to do this, so we'll be off to a good start. The paintings here were done by a Spanish artist, a friend of my girlfriend's. There's a lot of Spanish in this movie too. It's a mix of Irish, Spanish. My girlfriend's from Madrid, so a lot of her friends and helped out. And our sound recordists were from France, and Irish and UK. So that's the painter who did the two paintings in the movie. His name is David Perez Casamayor. And that is supposed to be Olga's mother. The idea is that she's taken down every painting. You can see there should be another painting on the wall next to her, but her spirit, or I guess when she was alive, still coming back to the house, that the only painting she leaves up is her as a child. So that's her as a child holding the bunny. And I do think that everything supernatural that happens in the movie all comes back to Olga's mother. Like the bunny is Olga's mother. She's communicating through the bunny. again, that's a painting of her. She's communicating through the painting. I don't ever think she's really out to get Jonathan. I think that she's really out for Barrett because Barrett killed her. Barrett and his brother killed her. So she's really just trying to lead Jonathan down into the basement to find her corpse. This was the first thing I edited as well, just to see if it cut together, try to make myself feel better. And I showed it to my girlfriend's dad, and he's Spanish, doesn't have any English. And I thought, well, it doesn't matter. It's like my short films; they have no dialogue, so anybody can watch it. And he watched it, and he's sitting there, and it finishes, and he goes, un poquito aburrido, no? So it's a little boring, no? So it's like, oh, gracias. So yeah, you gotta have thick skin making films. He was right though, because in the original cut that I showed him, that painting flips around twice more. So he's off the bed, he goes back over. It's like he goes back again. So it's like, yeah, still hurt though. We were just driving along, and the sky looked beautiful. The sunsets and the skies in West Cork and Bantry. I've travelled a lot, and I don't think there's anything like them. It's my little plug for the town. So we were just driving along, and the sky looked amazing. So we just quickly stopped, grabbed a shot of it. We did the final sound mix in Bristol, near where Richard, the composer, lived. And this wasn't in it. All this whispering you hear now. There was a young actress there, Siobhan Burton, and I just thought maybe it'd be cool to have some whispering, to actually have the painting talking to him. And so I quickly wrote out these lines for her to say, and she had a great voice, and it worked. The sound design of this though was, oh god, it feels like it was a year working on the sound, because sound in a horror is everything. It doesn't matter how scary the visuals are. If it doesn't sound scary, it falls so flat. Like, I think the scariest horror film ever made is Hideo Nakata's Ringu, and that's all down to the sound design. Now, Sadako coming out of the TV is fucking terrifying, but just the weird sounds they put in. So I really wanted to make this sound as scary as possible. This is not one of David's paintings. This is Olga's grandmother, the sleepwalker, having finally wandered out into the woods, being torn apart by foxes. It's definitely something that's unexplored in the script. If I was to remake the film, I just see. I mean, as I've said, this is my film school. I see nothing but problems with a lot of this. I would have explored that more. I would have gone into more with the sleepwalking grandmother and the harness, and all that kind of thing. Myself and Finton used to go out to the local landfill and just try to find stuff. We just had no money, so like we go out there just scouring through rubbish and rubble, just trying to see anything we could use. And this stove, that little fireplace there, it was an electric fireplace. So we said, oh cool, let's use this. So we brought that back, and we took the guts out of it, removed the back of it so that we could shoot through it, and it worked. There was a lot of stuff like that was just salvaged. Old timber, the bed that's in Olga's room. It all just came from just finding it. You hear foxes a lot in the movie, but you never see them, and it did always bother me that you never see. Like, they keep talking about the foxes, you keep hearing, but they're never shown. I always did wonder if we should have tried to get some kind of a live, some kind of footage of a fox, or even if you get up early enough in the morning in Cork, because it's so rural. There's just a lot of foxes that have been hit by cars just on the side of the road, and you drive along, you'd see, you'd slow down, you'd see this carcass on the side of the road. Like, I wonder, if I put that in the boot of the car, if I brought it back. But it was like, don't. Just keep driving. Don't stop to, don't be seen loading a dead fox into the back of your car. This is the kind of mentality you get anyway when you're trying to make a movie. You're just any way you can to improve it. Yeah, but showing up with a dead animal probably wouldn't be the best idea. This wasn't their first meeting. I had another scene where he goes upstairs to see her, but it just didn't work. They were too warm. She was kind of more friendly towards him, whereas here, like, it's a much better entrance for Olga as well, because she's showing up armed. She's clearly here to kill him now, and she's, the whole idea of her stilted conversation is that she's she's thinking it over. I mean, for me, the idea is she was going to come down right now and kill him, but and he doesn't realize it. Again, this was a much longer scene. It went on a lot longer. It took a long time to edit as well. I remember cutting this when it was such a lovely summer here in Ireland, and I was dying just to go out, but I was just stuck inside editing this thing, and here is really where I started to lose faith in the film, because I was editing it in sequence, and of course it was the first cut, which is the longest. The assembly cut is, as Scorsese calls it, the suicide cut. It's just you really don't think the film is working, and this is my first one, and I'd made enough short films to go, well, you'll get into the edit and you'll see all the problems, but this just seemed like I really felt like I was never going to get a chance to make another film, because this just was not working. It was very disheartening, and you're stuck inside and you just want to go out, and you're blacking out all the windows so you can see the screen. It's tough. It's tough going. As Ema is brilliant. Ema's one of my favorite people. So Ema's from Cork, and she's this. She's she's so funny. She's so patient as well. So I guess there's a foreshadowing going on there with the hole in the wall where she's going to be buried. I always think that she is a witch, that there is something going on with her. Ema's very physical. She's like this incredible dancer. She teaches dance, and she's yoga and ballet and all this kind of thing. And then I have her playing a corpse, which isn't the best use of her talents. But she's just great to work with. She hasn't actually seen the film yet. I'm going to show it to her now, I think next week. It's been out a couple of months out at the time of this recording. She hasn't seen it, so I hope she likes it. She's all excited to see it. The stool Jonathan is sitting on there was made by my grandfather. That stool is probably about 100 years. It's probably over 100 years old now. He made that when he was very young. He was a farmer, so he made that for when he was to sit on when he was milking cows. Yeah, that scene went on a little bit longer too. I think she comes back in and they have another fight. And it's just like, oh no, this is done. Let's keep moving. This was the last shot, I think, of our first day. So we shot for 18 days, December 2017. We'd start filming at 8 o'clock in the morning and we finish at 7 at night. And we got everything done in the time that, in that time, all of the shots. You'd have to combine shots and stuff like this, all right? But it was, for the most part, the shoot itself was probably the easiest part. There was we had some difficulties for sure, but compared to post-production, it was a breeze. That chair there, I really loved that chair. I was driving through Bantry one day, and there was a charity shop there. And I saw that on the window and was like, oh, cool. I think that would look really good in a film. So someone was trying to work it into more movies now. This is shooting through a wall that we can remove to allow us to film behind the bunny. There's a little bit kind of, I guess you call it stop motion that I used here. So like those bunnies, obviously, like they drum at a certain pattern. I mean, they don't change. So like for things like that, it was us just turning it on and off. So Jonathan would say something, and then we'd respond by pressing the button to make him drum. But when he starts to change the rhythm of his drumming, it is just finding a moment where the bunny's staying perfectly still, like this kind of thing now, and reversing shots, taking a clip and either reversing it or looping it. And I guess it's a little bit of a stop motion technique, or picking one of his hands to drum. That kind of stuff I really liked. Now, if this was really just going for a jump scare, you could put in one right there. Like you kind of have the audience there now, and there's such an empty space behind him that you easily could have had a big, loud, scary face jump in there and frighten him, and then he could wake up and it's all a dream. And I was so fucking tempted to do it, because it was like maybe that would kind of wake the film up. But it was like, no, it would have been a place to put in one of those real fake out, it's just a dream scares. But I just said, no, I had to have that restraint and just keep in mind the third act. It's like when we get to the third act, that's what we're building towards. Yeah, but actually, even mentioning it now, I do have a little bit of regret of not doing it. Would it have been so bad? It would have been a good scare. You definitely would have had. You definitely would have got a scream out of people. But But I think what was my goal was just build to the third act, and then really go for it in the third act. Because if you get the ending right, everything else is okay. And if you'd done that too, if you'd had that fake out where it's just a dream, you do lose the trust, and it's very cheap. You lose the trust of the audience then. Although that can work for you then as well, because it's like, well, if you've shown them that you're willing to resort to that kind of a scare, they're going to be on fucking edge all the time, because they never know when you're just going to suddenly throw something on the screen just to scare them, which is pretty much what he does at the end was. But in the edit, I was sorry I didn't do it. The edit of this, I mean, I was cutting this between the sound design and the edit. It seemed to go on for years. And I was working at the time too, so like I'd come home from work, I'd do a little, a few seconds here and there. You're back to work the next day. You're never present in any of your conversations because you're always just thinking of the edit, and you're just fucking worried about just saying like, I've spent, nearly 20 years. I wanted to make a film that says 15, and I'm 35 or whatever it was, 37, 38, cutting this thing. I was like, I'm after making the worst film. This is not scary. And of course, it would be impossible for me to find it scary at this stage, having written it and having been this long with it. But it was just, apart from Richard, it was just a very lonely process, because you're cutting this, you're doing seconds here and there. Richard was great though. He really said like, stick with it. He goes, there's a film in there somewhere. Just keep going. But it took a lot. You really had to find that self-belief somewhere. But it was just a big learning curve for me. I mean, films really need to be scheduled right from the start. You need your budget to go right through to the edit. Everything needs to be taken care of. Like when I got into this, my parents eventually, just because I think they were seeing me just kind of just away in my own world at times, and they said like, okay, like what's going on with the movie? And I said like, well, I'm just cutting seconds here and there, and I'm going to be working on this for years at this rate. Like it really was going to be years. And I work with my dad, and my parents could not have been more supportive. So they said like, look, it's not a big deal. Like we'll cover your rent for a while. Really sit down, get into the edit. Do whatever you need to do. Like don't worry about your rent and feeding yourself. So they were so supportive. My girlfriend Letty too. I mean, there's some people that they can see what you're trying to do. But it was a big lesson, because I kept thinking like, well, if the film fails, then I'm a failure, and it's you should never identify with what you're doing. It's a terrible thing to do. Here's Ema. Thank God for you. Ema she's so patient. It's like, okay, Mo, like you're just going to. Okay, just be very still. Don't blink. Hold your breath. It's got all this like uncomfortable makeup on her. These fake teeth. She's so funny. I should have shot that a little different, because you can see the arrows. The arrows are going into her, but because of the way I framed it, like the camera is at the same angle as the arrow. So what I should have done is turned her body more into profile, so you could actually see the arrows sticking out of her chest, as opposed to traveling with her. It's not the best framing, but again, a lot of this stuff I'm complaining about anyway. You just you let it go. You put what you've learned into film one, you put it into film two, and it'll be the same thing after second film. If I get to make another one, that you always take what you learn and you put it into the next thing. I was concerned about one of the things that one of the kind of the color palette I was trying to work off from the start was, let's not have any greens and let's not have any reds, and they still seem to just find their way into the film. My concern was that it would look like a violent movie that would have this kind of red and greens. I think are using a lot of very violent movies, and I wanted this to be more like a ghost story. See the little grid that he's pulling off there. That's the same grid there. We only had one. We really had no money. I've seen some people giving out about this online. Just like this guy, that this is the stupidest fucking character I've ever seen in a horror film. The key is right there. He's making a phone call. Why doesn't he just get the key and free himself? But it's like, yeah, of course, that's the idea. I mean, there's such a fine line between comedy and horror, and that is supposed to be frustrating. But the key is in every shot. Every time it cuts in, the key is right there. So of course he should have reached in and taken it. But I don't know. I find that kind of thing funny. I mean, clearly the film isn't based on a true story. But I did worry about the violence. I worried about that color scheme that if somebody saw a still of it and they'd see this guy in a beard, this guy's bearded guy, and he's got this leather harness and a long chain, they'd be like, well, I'm not watching that because that's just going to be this guy. There's the key in the foreground. They'd be like, I'm not going to watch that because it's going to be just this guy getting his arms and legs, chopped off. So that'll be in the sequel. Jonathan's got a great voice. He's from Donegal, up towards the north in Ireland, and I think there was a little concern that maybe his accent was very thick, and that outside of Ireland people might be able to understand him. I can understand him perfectly because I'm from Ireland, but it was something that we just took into consideration. But no, I haven't seen anything about it. I mean, I think he's very, very well spoken, and I've seen the accent is that people do like it. The mooring ring there, I said it to a local guy here in West Cork that what I was trying to do again, and he said, yeah, I actually have this. It's a pole with a very old mooring ring on it that used to actually be used. Again, that thing is like probably 100 or so years old. And he said, come and take a look at it. And I saw it, and it was perfect. So we just drilled a hole in the ground and we put it in. Again, it's just that lesson of like, if you're making a film, just tell everybody what you're doing, because you never know what hidden talents people have, or what they have that you need that might help you. And people will want to help you, unless you're an asshole. All of the intercom stuff. One evening, we had a little bit of time aside, and Hugo Parveri, the brilliant sound recordist, we did no ADR either. The sound recording was so good. He took the actors away, and they went into a room, and he recorded all of their dialogue. But I couldn't be there because I had to. I needed a toilet for Olga's bathroom scene. We still didn't have a toilet, but I'd found one. We couldn't buy one, but I'd found one that was buried in a pile of rubble in a field near Bantry House. Why would anybody bury a toilet? Well, I guess I found out once I dug it up. But I had to go dig up this toilet. I could see the top of it sticking out of the ground. And one of the crew members, the last film, the film he'd worked on before this film was with Neil Jordan, and Neil Jordan's made like Interview with the Vampire and The Crying Game, and really successful, talented director. So he'd worked with him on the previous film. So I went away and I was digging up this toilet, and I was wrestling it out of the ground while all the voice recording was happening. So I couldn't be there. And obviously as a director, you want to be there to help with the actors, but it was just so few hands on set that if you need it done with a film like this anyway, like if you need it done, you're going to be the person that works the hardest on a no budget film. So I dig this toilet out of the ground. I'm filthy and I'm carrying it back, and I see him like, you don't see, and he sees me carrying this toilet. He's like, and I was like, you don't see Neil Jordan digging toilets out of the ground. You just see me just starting to crack. I actually saw Neil Jordan in a when I was deep in the edit and having completely lost faith in the movie. Like I said, I was trying to figure out what I was actually what I was going to do. It was my dream to make a film, and I just thought I was just working on the worst film. I mean, nobody had seen any footage of it. Like, I just seemed to be working in this bubble. Richard Wright, once I kind of got a decent cut of it, I started talking to Richard more about it, but I just seemed to be completely in this weird bubble with it. Again, you learn. I would never do that again. You need to show people work in progress. You need to, and it wasn't a choice. It was I wasn't keeping it a secret. It was just. I was just editing the film. There was nobody around. But I saw Neil Jordan in this little village one summer when I was in the end, and I saw him, and he was sitting out, and he was on his own, and there was nobody. This village is tiny now, and I saw him, and I really wanted to go up talking to him and just tell him the story. Just say, look, I'm making this film. It's my first one, and I'm losing faith a little bit. And I said, and I'd even say like, I know that this is common, that I know a lot of first directors, that their first film can be very challenging, and they don't realize how much work it's going to be if the financing isn't there, and how hard they're going to have to work on it. And I was down the village and I was just staring up at him going, and there was only the two of us there, so he was in the distance. I was going, I'd love to go talk now. I was getting ready to say all this stuff in my head. But he was there and he looked so happy and he was having an ice cream and it was sunny. And I just completely chickened out. I couldn't, I left him alone. He looked too relaxed. It would have obviously, if I got up talking to him, it would have been a much better story. And I had a great in too, because I had won this award in San Sebastian, in the San Sebastian Horror and Fantasy Film Festival, for a short film I made called How Old and Lost Is I. I won the Médaille d'Argent award. And my short film played before his movie Byzantium. So I thought, that's perfect. That's like the perfect way in. But no, I let him alone. But yeah, but I can see it now. I mean, once I'm out, once you're past the film, you can see that like that the first one's tough, but I'm sure they get easier. That's probably what he would have told me too. Oh yeah, don't worry, they get easier. Lila's doing great stuff there. She's so good. This scene was probably this was probably the hardest one to film. So myself and Jonathan, we were trying to work out his reaction to the accusation, and we could never get it right. And he gave me loads of stuff to work on. He played it so many different ways, loads of choice in the edit. We would usually do 2 or 3 takes, moving on, done. This we were on like take 8 or 9, which was completely unheard of on the film. And I said, look, I think it's in there somewhere. I said, we must have gotten in some kind of funk today, like where we're just obsessing over this one shot, and it's there. So let's just move on. It's done. So that was the end of the day. It was 7 o'clock. I went home. I went to bed, and I woke up about 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh no, we didn't get that today. Like there's something wrong there. So I took a look at the script, and I could say, yeah, it's not there. The dialogue is very vague. She never, in that original script that we shot, she never just comes right out and accuses him the way she does. So in the morning, so I very quickly wrote this page where it's very definite what they're saying, and worked with Jonathan, and he was like, yes, this actually makes more sense. So as soon as he did it, it was right. And then I worked with Kieran, and Kieran Fitzgerald was the cinematographer. It was only two people on camera, Kieran and Rob. All of this with 2 guys is amazing. And we added in the little push in, and it just worked. And you had this gut feeling. It was like, I didn't have this yesterday. It's actually working. The eyes of both of them here are brilliant. They're so suspicious. Look at this. Here is where the film shows its budget. I mean, like, I grew up with one of those phones, those old landline phones. For what that phone is doing now is impossible. Like, that's the most unrealistic thing in the whole film. Like, you press that button. That phone has no speaker. Myself and Richard, we got a good laugh out of this when we were working on the sound. Again, it just shows you're rushing. You settle for these things. But going back then, once you're off the set and you're into the edit and you're poring over every single moment of the film in detail, you go, oh, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that, and I wish I had. It would have been better if I'd put a little speaker next to the phone, just to get it across that it has a speaker function. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It was the least of my problems in the edit. I was worried about that whole red jacket thing too. I thought it'd be silly. Again, if I could go back, not that I ever would remake the film, obviously, but if I had a chance to do it again, I would have had the dog. It's so obvious. The dog should be the thing that he remembers. That the dog should be his connection to the island. That he brought the dog with him. It's so easy. You would have had like his name on the collar of the dog or something like this. But no, I went with a red leather jacket. For some reason, I got into my head too that I'd show the film somewhere and he'd be like, your brother Mike wore this jacket, this red leather jacket. It was like, somebody shut up. Who was his brother, Michael Jackson? That's great stuff there that Jonathan's doing. There's so much luck involved in all this. I read somebody had a good take on the film. They were saying what they liked about it was, that's great there. They said what they liked about the film was that you kind of have three characters and they're all unreliable narrators. You can't believe any of them, which is true, and I do like that. And maybe I guess all this is intentional on some level, but it's nice when you make something and then people point out these things. You go like, oh, I didn't notice that's really good. And it's true. The three of them aren't really to be trusted, and a lot of it would be open to debate. The film is very locked down. We're always shooting on the tripod, and it's everything's framed up and everything is in the right place. So all this stuff was really the first time that we kind of moved around a lot. Like, this is just Kieran now, and Kieran and Jonathan going for it. We did all this in one continuous shot. Kieran would just move around as following Jonathan. But then when we got to the edit, then I just chopped it up and made it out of place, put everything out of place to give it that urgency. We had no continuity person on the set, so the crossbow there can be seen in the hall. But when we went, and we shot a lot of this out of sequence, an awful lot. So like we shot a lot of stuff with Jonathan coming up and down the hall, just because it's late and you need to do it that way. But we had not put the crossbow there, and we were about to start filming, and Justin said, "Shouldn't the crossbow be in the hall?" So that saved us. That saved us losing a couple hours for sure. It was the same actually in one of the earlier scenes where Ben first comes into the house. Ben just happened to have on reading glasses, and he's in one take. He just walks. He just suddenly Bart's just wearing glasses, and Rob, the AC lighting, he goes, yeah. So I was like, great cut, yeah, that's pretty good. And then Rob was like, should Ben be wearing glasses? And Ben starts laughing. He's like, oh shit. And we're like, oh, very good, thank you, Rob. It's a continuity credit for Rob. It's funny now. It's funny to me when I think about it. But like, this film could have been a disaster for continuity with nobody watching it. I think in some ways Hugo kind of became continuity because he was watching the script very closely as we were recording. I think at some stage everybody caught something. Everybody caught like, should that be there? Should that? But the importance of a continuity person on set is vital. Well, we were just missing a lot of crew with this. I think there was maybe 10 of us on the during the shoot. Lila breaks a stick there. I gave her a stick just to break because I think it'd be kind of hard to. How do you perform? You need something to focus that anger on. And she did great. Again, if you go up another inch there, you're going to hit the top of the set. The idea here with the ivy is I wanted all this ivy coming in the wall as if it's reclaiming the house, as if nature's reclaiming it. My sister Miriam made the fake hand. You only see it for a second. What she did was she took a mold of Jonathan's hand, and then she's very good at punching hair, fake hair and beards and all this kind of stuff. And she got this same hand, and then she a mold of Jonathan's hand, and then punched in all the little hairs and everything. She put so much work into it, such detail, and you barely see it. Miriam is not one of these people. Without her help, like the film was sunk. Miriam more so during the actual shoot. I mean, at nighttime we would go home, we'd go through what we shot, look at the schedule for the next day. The wound at the back of Jonathan's head, that's a scar down the back of his head. So we put that in, and it's a little bit like fake blood. If you're ever shooting someone with fake blood and you think you have enough on the day, then you get into the edit, you look back at the footage, you're like, where the fuck is all the fake blood? It just seems to disappear. And I found it was the same with the scar on the back of his head. Like, that's supposed to be the injury that he's had. You can see his fingers are bandaged up there from a little deleted scene. But with the wound to the back of his head, it's almost like if you could do it now, it's like, no, you needed to take a big scalp out the back of his head, really take out a lot of that hair, put in like a scar, just to show it. These things, sometimes when you're shooting these things, you try to keep it subtle, and then it disappears. I remember this sound effect here of the woman crying. I remember it was one Saturday night. I think it was about 7 or 8 hours just listening to one. I was trying to license a sound effect to listen to this, to find the right one, and it was just hours and hours of going through like different types of ghostly moans and everything from zombie effects to this. And I remember being just really sick of the film at that stage. I mean, just try listening to 6 hours of just all these different types of painful cries and moans. It was. I can think of better ways to spend a Saturday night. Kieran, the cinematographer, was also the colorist. So he was very brave here with the lighting. In some films, when you see that it's supposed to be dark, you can still see everything in the room. You know, like there's almost like that moonlight effect. But with here, it's nothing. It's just it is just his light. And I didn't want to use LED lights. I wanted to use the old older flashlights that have the bulb and a battery. So we were continuously changing out the batteries in the lights to make them as bright as possible. It was the same with Olga's head torch coming up. We did a job finding one that wasn't LED. I kept wanting to put in any kind of reflective surface or using it with a bounce board just to throw light back at Jonathan, just so it wouldn't just be this one little ball of light that we're following around the screen. Because it's risky and it can get very boring to look at. But I don't think we push. I don't think we go too far with it. I think we're okay. Of course, like why the power goes off in this. Why does the power go off? It's just because the script needs it to. It's strictly for horror. It's never really explained. It's never set up. It's never said, oh, the power in the house sometimes goes off. No, we just kill it. It's creepy. Again, with this, what I think I should have done is just it wouldn't have been completely unbelievable to have had a light on the pier, that they just have their own, that the family that own the island to have just put a light here. But it's fine, it's moonlight. We had another sequence here where Jonathan goes into the woods and he decides not to go back to the house. He's trying to stay in the woods for a while, but it gets too cold and you can hear the sounds of the foxes closing in at him. It just didn't really work. So we just said, well, let's just cut back to here. This shot was somehow lost for a long time. I don't know how. We couldn't find it. This was gone. I was editing it, and it miraculously turned up just as we were about to lock picture. And it's needed because without this you would have been cutting directly to this shot here, and you lose any kind of tension. You need that little bit of a setup. The light switch that he turns on and off as he comes in the door as well was a very old light switch. I spent a lot of time when I was first trying to find a location. I had this idea that maybe we'd go to like a genuine, actually go to a location, go to an old house. There's plenty of them around West Cork that are just abandoned. And I was sneaking in a lot of windows of these old places. And but you'd find a lot of these cool old light switches. They're like an old wooden light switch. Or if we were ever rewiring an old house, I would just take a lot of this stuff. I would just cut the wires and take it, because the house is going to be knocked down anyway. The wall's going to be knocked. So you would just take these old switches. This is good. I always like this. I thought this was a good. This was a good kind of a change of roles for them, because now she's in the harness. That tea cozy. That this is all. There's a lot of setup just for one gag later on. My grandmother's 97. She used to have this. She has this really old tea cozy. A tea cozy is just a woolly hat basically that you put around a teapot to keep it warm. And she had this one. It was this really ugly orange and black one, and it was very, very small. And I said, like, that would be perfect. Like, if that would be perfect for the film. And I said it to her. I said, could you bring down the tea cozy? And she came down, but she brought down the wrong one. But she was so happy. She was like, oh, this is going to look great in the movie. I didn't have the heart to tell her it was the wrong one. I was like, oh, perfect. And I used it, but I don't like it. It just looks like a hat. It doesn't look like a tea cozy. A tea cozy should be very tight. I like that cut there. It's very cartoonish. It's funny. But we ended up using it, and it works. I mean, it does fine. We shot everything with Jonathan when he had his beard, and then if all the scenes without his beard, they were the last things we filmed. So we shot everything with the beard, and then we shaved. And shot all this stuff, but it was like having a different actor. I mean, he looks so different without his beard. It's probably a great thing for an actor that he can change his look so dramatically. But it was definitely strange. My sister Miriam shaved off his beard. She was doing the makeup and the special effects, and the hair. She shaved off his beard, and she was like, he's just like a different guy. But as we were shaving it, we were trying all these different looks. We're leaving the goatee and the mustache and this kind of thing. So the guy can look like a lot of different people. This scene was another. This was this was one of the longest scenes. I think this was 9 minutes. Can you imagine 9 minutes of that? Again, not because of the performances, but because of my script and because it's cutting to something so bland and so boring. Like look at this compared, and it's shot nice and all that, but compared to the compared to where you are here, it's just much more dramatic and hopeless and like a horror film. And you're really entering a third act now. Things have gone really bad. So cutting back to these two guys having such a long conversation, they were both talking about their brothers. Jonathan was talking about his mother and growing up. And nobody had actually seen a cut of the film when I went to London to work on the score with Richard. And I showed it to Justin, the producer. And before he'd said anything, it's so strange when you watch a film with somebody, you'll think it's done. You'll have done the best job you can, and then you'll sit down to watch it with somebody, and it's the strangest feeling. You can actually, your own perception of the movie will change because somehow just having somebody else in the room with you, it highlights all of the problems with it. And before Justin had even said anything, I said, "Oh my God!" I said that scene in the apartment. I said a lot of that has to go. And he was like, yeah, he goes, it does go on a bit. Again, like it was, Justin's one of the producers. He does give you free reign to do what you want, to fall on your sword, to make these decisions. But a lot of that got cut down. I think it was for the best. Bit of a Frighteners, Agent Dammers, Jeffrey Combs kind of a homage there with with the with the head torch. I love the Frighteners. I think it's Peter Jackson's best film. It's just everywhere she looks, it's supposed to be where the head torch is, where the light is shining. This really bothered me once I got into the edit. Now she's after shooting at the side of his head. Everything like the arrow should have gone right through the mirror. So we should have broken the mirror and had the arrow sticking out like so. So now even just in terms of visuals, it looks so cool. So the arrow now should be stuck right in the middle of the glass, but it's way up in the air. It doesn't even make sense for where it's ended up in terms of where it shot him. Like, was he a foot taller a moment ago? That stuff is that kind of stuff is frustrating once you get into the edit, and you don't notice it on the set. You just know, okay, like I need somebody to fix the arrow to the wall where as if it's just missed him, and you're off busy doing something else, and then you come back and you just go, yeah, that makes sense. And then you get into the edit, it's like, no, it doesn't make sense at all. It should have gone through the mirror, and even the sound of the mirror breaking would have been cool. Yeah, really heading into the third act here now, and it's so dark, and I think the way we shot this was Rob. Rob was overhead, kind of tracking Jonathan with the light, which is good. A big reference for this movie, one that I watched a lot, was Jeremy Saulnier's. I'm sure I'm messing up his surname. Jeremy Saulnier's and Macon Blair's Blue Ruin. It was such an amazing film, and Macon Blair is just. I mean, those two guys are so talented. But I think it was one of the films I told Jonathan to watch. I think that and The Thing. So there is a lot of Blue Ruin in this. Now I'm not comparing this to Blue Ruin. I think Blue Ruin is a masterpiece. But I think it definitely influenced it. Shooting him in the leg, I do regret it. I should have shot him through the shoulder. I mean, the whole idea is to weaken your character, to kind of follow that Die Hard type trait of where he starts off, clean and shower fresh, and then by the end of it, he's just fucking falling apart. He's bloody and sweaty and dirty. I think it would have been better if she had just, like a straight shot right through the hole in the wall, and hit him in the shoulder. It was really just to change his physicality going into the third act, like how he carries himself. Now he limps, okay, like he limps, which is fine, but it could have been a little bit more interesting to have, like, if he was an arrow right through his shoulder for the rest of the movie, then he'd kind of be at an angle. He'd be favoring maybe one shoulder be a little bit higher than the other, and that would I probably just like that because I love Werner Herzog has done that with two of his movies with Aguirre, The Wrath of God, where he has Klaus Kinski coming across the rocks like a crab, and one of his shoulders is up high in the air, and and Nicolas Cage in Bad Lieutenant. That I thought it could have been an interesting way for Jonathan to play it too, but we went with the leg. This was just done on the day. This is this is. I was just thinking, what's an interesting way to have him enter the room, and I always loved Katsuhiro Otomo's Akira. There's a scene in that movie where one of the guys just wanders into the bar, but the way he has him enter the bar is so interesting. The guy comes in and it's this weird low angle, and he walks right to the edge of frame like he's about to leave it. And this is animation, so even to draw it would be difficult. And he walks and he turns it away, and I said that's such an interesting way to have a guy enter the room, as opposed to just putting the camera directly in front of the door and having to step in. It would have been so boring. But yeah, but that was a little steal there. Yeah, this is all supposed to be kind of a bit of a fuck it moment. Like he goes, I came here to talk to, I came here to warn Barrett's brother, but instead I'm just going to, I'll just leave a note. I'll just tell him that he wants him dead. Again, it's probably the most rushed stuff in the script. I'm never sure if it was all that interesting. I think the horror aspects are better. I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I had a difficult time editing it, because it was like, this is a horror film with very little horror. It's like that there's too much build up to every scare. But I know that, but I guess that's just the type of film it was. But I suppose when I look at what I'm making next or what I'm working on now, I can kind of, I can see how to improve upon that. I'd seen this video essay on YouTube where it talk about Steven Spielberg, the way he shoots stuff. So from here, like they called it the Spielberg Wonders, where he combines his shots and they become something else at the end of it. So like that goes from a wide shot of the room with Jonathan, and then you pan across, you end up in a close-up. I'd never noticed it. I mean, some of these video essays are so clever the way they point this stuff out to you that you don't realize it that you're watching it. So I said, "Oh, that's really good. I'm gonna see if I can find any way to use that, because it's quicker as well. It helps with your setups." Like we had very little art direction too. I mean, even when I look at the room back there, it's so bare. There's no photographs. There's nothing in the room, and I know that was the idea. I mean, obviously that was my idea going into it, because the house is supposed to be abandoned. So for the story, it wouldn't make sense that it's fully furnished and there's lots of stuff there. I mean, nobody is supposed to have lived there in a long time, so it makes sense that everything is gone. But when I got into the edit, you're watching going like, this looks like a fucking play. This looks like a student film. That there's nothing there. That there's nothing. There's nothing in the room. It's not cluttered, and but it's okay. It works in the end. I mean, when people notice it, that they don't seem. I don't see anybody has taken me up on it to say like, why is everything so bare? Because I guess it is in the story, but just visually, it did run the risk of being quite boring to look at. This was now all coming towards the end of the shoot, so starting to feel a little bit more relaxed. Things had gone relatively okay. It was a much longer sequence for him to get down into the basement. Now we just scrapped it. Again, you just try to get him down there quicker. This was on now all below Bantry House, below the actual house itself. There's like an old cell down there. There's all these old rooms. It's very spooky down there. I had a much longer sequence where he wanders in and out of all these old tunnels and stuff like this, but it just it was too dark and it went on for too long. It was a little bit too much a Blair Witch Project look to the whole thing. This is Connor Duane. Then Connor's a local actor. He came. We had him actually. This was actually the last day. So when I think about it, because we had Connor on the very last day. So he just showed up, and on the last day, everybody's either exhausted or they're sad it's over, or everybody's bonded, and he came in, but he fit right in. He was great. He was very. He just slotted right into it. Kieran added these. Kieran Fitzgerald, the cinematographer and the colorist, he added these little lights to his eyes. See those there? It's very creepy, and Kieran's very much involved in the local filmmaking community here in Cork. And I was saying to Kieran, like, could you add lights to his eyes just to bring it out more? And he goes, I can, but don't tell anybody I did it, because if people know I can do After Effects, they'll have me doing all sorts of things. So sorry, Kieran, I've just given away your secret. This, I remember watching this now. The first time I saw the film with the crowd was that we showed it at the Indie Cork Film Festival, right around the time that COVID was about to shut everything down here in Ireland, and it was strange. It was just a strange mood in general, as I'm sure there was everywhere at the time. And I'm used to going to film festivals, and there's a little bit of a party atmosphere because you're delighted your film is being screened. It's usually a packed house, so there's something of a mob mentality with that, with a big full cinema, where that nervous laughter starts, or if somebody gets scared, then that starts a big laugh because people are laughing at the person that screamed the loudest. But this was just a very quiet screening. Like even that last scene there now, where Jonathan sees Olga's dad, or I guess the ghost of her dad. That there was just very little reaction. There was like 50. It was maybe like a 300-400 seater cinema, and there was 50 people in there. Everybody was spread out, and it just really wasn't. I don't think anybody was in the mood for it. And of course, I'd worked on the film for years, and you're sitting there watching it, and there's just this silence, and you're going, "Oh, I was right. This is a total disaster. This is not scary because there's just no reaction to it." It's like comedy or horror. Like when a comedy's working because people are laughing, and with a horror, for me, it's working when there's that nervous laughter. But with this, it seems so quiet, and I thought, oh yeah, this is dead. And then this scene followed it. And this is one of my least favorite scenes again because it's shot in the apartment, because it's kind of melodramatic or something about it. Like you killed your brother, and so this was all disappointing. But I remember telling myself, well, if we can just make it to the third act, if we can get Isaac into the crawl space, everything will be okay. Shooting this was a long enough night too, for whatever reason. Some days everything's clicking, and then other days it's just like there's kind of a lack of energy or something. Ben and Jonathan were great. I mean, every time they were like, they got on so good. Every time we said cut, they'd just start laughing, the two of them. Or every time you'd walk into a room and the two of them were talking alone, they seemed to be just getting on great, which was obviously lovely to see. So this is Bantry now. This is my old apartment where I used to live. When we shot this, there was three teenagers below us. I don't know who they were, but they saw us filming, and as you do, if you're a teenager, you're just like, yeah, let's harass this film crew. I think they thought we were like local news, so they kept shouting up abuse at Jonathan. I just decided to cut the top of Ben's sock there just for a laugh. I think myself and my sister Miriam were the only two that found that funny. But there were these three young lads down there, but they were shouting all this abuse up at Jonathan when he was trying to act. And luckily we had no audio. But here, when he turns to look at them, they're after shouting something up at him. They're giving him such abuse. But he starts doing this. He starts egging them on a little bit. He starts doing this really good Conor McGregor impression. He goes, yeah. He goes, come up here and I'll fucking beat the head off you. And that just made them. Of course, that just made them focus on us even more. So I was like, oh, don't entice them. Let's just try to get this shot. I really liked this. I thought that he really understood it. He just had a really good understanding of the story, that like the actor or the character is supposed to be quite relieved that that he's not a bad guy, that he didn't go to the island because he's been accused of killing her father, and now he's remembered that no, in fact, it's actually the opposite. He actually tried to save him, and the way Jonathan played it, I thought was very impressive. Even on the day, sometimes you miss things. Sometimes actors do things, and it's very subtle, and you see it, and you go, yeah, okay, we got it. You have it, and then you see it when you're editing it, you go, Jesus, this is really good. Why didn't I see this on the day? That was what there's my toilet. There's my. There's the famous toilet I had to dig out of the ground. that someone decided to bury. Maybe, maybe it's haunted or something. The secateurs there that he finds to cut the bolt out of his leg is extremely convenient. You know, again, I should probably have had a toolbox of stuff, so it could have been part of the toolbox, but no, just within arm's reach. There's the exact thing he needs to cut out of his to free himself. Again, I shouldn't probably be pointing out all these flaws because nobody else seems to have spotted them, or I haven't read anything about them anyway. There was one guy giving me out, going like, does this guy not feel any pain? He goes, that's the he just seemed to think like he gets shot and he doesn't seem to have any reaction. But we did try it a bunch of different ways. We tried him screaming in pain and all this kind of thing, and it always seemed out of place. I thought, no, like I think he's more in so much emotional pain that he's kind of overriding anything he's feeling physically. The way we did the little bolt sticking out of his leg then is that we had Miriam tied a strap around his thigh, and she put a piece of padding underneath it for where the arrow was sticking through, just so it wouldn't be rubbing against his leg. And then I remember one day I walked by, and he'd been shooting like this for days with this thing there. And I walked by, and Jonathan, he was changing his pants, and I saw on his thigh he had like this little mark. It looked very sore, like the arrow had actually had been scraping against his skin. And I was like, "What?" I said, "Jonathan, what the fuck what's going on with your leg?" I said, "Like, why isn't that bandaged?" And I brought Miriam over, and she was so angry because she was like that is supposed to be bandaged, why are you doing that? But he had tightened it up or something, and he was like, "No," he goes, It actually helps. It reminds me that it's sore. It's like, well, of course it's sore. It looks really fucking sore. But he said no, that it was. So it was a little bit of method on his part. So he did. It did look very sore when I think about it. Like he had this little mark on his thigh. It's like when the back of your heel gets raw from a shoe that's too tight. That's okay. I wish I'd had another thing I would have done again if you have if you had the luxury of time travel. Then I would have just an insert there of the door opening, I think would have made it a little bit more suspenseful, or it would have, if not suspenseful, it would have made it a little bit more believable that he would go to the door, because the door opens and he's like, fantastic. And he just goes right over to it. Everything from here I like. Again, this is what I do for a living. I'm an electrician, so I crawl around in these spaces every day, in crawl spaces and attics. So I was like, I know how to make this look believable. And you put in all these wires, and you put in all. I wanted to put in all those pipes and shoot past them. I think it was John Frankenheimer talked about it before, that like if you shoot past something, put something in the foreground, it just makes it look like it makes it look like it's a hard place to get to. And to such a simple thing, but it did. This is all a set we built now. Everything here now is a set. And I wanted to have dripping water, like Alien. I wanted to have like these wet floors. Whoop. That's great. I really like that. His reaction here is amazing. Like that's all him. I said, look surprised, or whatever my golden direction was. And he did that. This is cool as well. This really starts to give the film, I guess, more of an epic feel, or more of a scale, because the film is clearly low budget, but these kind of simple things that they do add to it. But this is my favorite stuff. I always said once we get him into the crawl space, I'm so proud then of everything. Then I really like the film. Everything in the last 50 minutes, I am proud of. I don't think I would have changed anything, and that's good, because that's the end of the movie. Such as, like, again, if somebody says I really don't like the ending, it's like, okay, but I do, and that's important, obviously, when you made it. I had this idea as well, because this red jacket, he was going to have to keep getting dirty. But we shot so out of sequences that we needed the jacket clean again. So before he got into the crawl space, I was going, well, God, like once he crawls down here, that jacket's going to get destroyed. And I had this idea, is like, well, maybe he finds like a plastic bag and he puts the jacket into the bag. So he now would be moving around with the red leather jacket inside a plastic bag. It would have just, thank God I didn't do it. It would have looked so ridiculous. But my mom was there and she said like, well, no, like I can wash the jacket every day. Just give it to me as soon as it's done after work, after you film. And she'd light the fire and she'd have it washed and dried. And every day that jacket was washed and dried. But I told my sister Miriam this after the shoot. She found it. She thought it was the funniest thing. She said that would have looked. She said that would have looked so ridiculous with him going around with this plastic bag with his jacket inside it. That's great. Her little changes there are so good. And what's funny here is just the fact that Jonathan plays it so straight. I had written one script and I gave it to Miriam, and then I gave her the shooting script, and this wasn't in it. Everything with the tea cozy wasn't there. I'd taken it out, and she said, "Oh, that I really like that." And she said, "Where's the tea cozy where Ian Man moves the tea cozy around and looks through the spout hole?" And I said, "Oh, I got rid of it. I thought it was a little bit silly." And she was like, "You have to put that back in." She goes, "That was one of my favorite parts." So I put it back in, and I'm glad I did now, because I think it is one of those nervous laughter moments. It works on a lot of levels, because it's both Jonathan's reaction is so serious. It's one of my favorite expressions there. And the lighting, everything about it is great. And then that's good. That's funny. Because she doesn't mean him any harm, but she's clearly fucking with him. And then it also works as that's comedy horror, obviously. He's sawing faster to escape. But then it works great as just a transition to the next part of the scene, which is, Olga's mother is now warning him that Olga's coming. And then he sees her, man. And it just works. I'm really glad that I kept it in. The end of the film is intentionally slow. It was always the plan right from the start. I think a problem I have with some horror films is that once the monster or the ghost or whatever has been revealed, at the end of the film then turns into more of a chase movie. They're no longer hiding what you're supposed to be afraid of. So that means your imagination is no longer working, that you're just taking, the only thing to be afraid of is what I'm seeing. And with the end of this, it was always the intention that the ending should actually be nearly slower than the rest of the film, or the ending has to be the most suspenseful. I remember saying this to Richard, and he really liked that, even in terms of music, to keep everything more subtle. That's my girlfriend Letty's hand. We'd made a short. I don't know why we ended up using her hand. I think Lila must have gone home at that stage when we were shooting the stuff inside the wall. We had made a short film as well called Hands before this, and Letty played the hand of a witch. So she's been typecast, and she's very beautiful. So I should probably show her face and not just her hands the next time. Again, my framing there, I think, was a little. I'd like to have changed it. To just have shown the geography better, just to have shown Irma's body with the arrows clearly sticking out of her, and have the hand coming in and searching for them for a little while and then finding them. But it's okay, That's great. I like that. It's very odd the way Jonathan moves into frame there. It's cool. I think I'll take credit for it. I can't remember if it was him that decided to come in like that. This was Ben's. This was the second scene then that we ever shot with Ben. And he just... it may even have been the first, actually, because Lila was definitely going home soon. She's going back to London from Cork. And Ben just went for it. And I suppose as an actor you are coming in and you're going to show people what you can do. But he was absolutely... That guy was all confidence. I'm in awe of actors anyway. I could never act. I could never be in front of the camera. I hate being in front of the camera. Even doing the commentary, it's just not my kind of thing. And I'm doing it because I do like commentaries. I like to, if somebody's interested in the film, it's probably good to hear how it was put together. I hope this hasn't been too boring. But actors, I just think the fact that they got to get up there and try to convince people that there's somebody else. Acting and stand-up comedians, I don't know how they do it. It's a whole other level of confidence. This all looked great. I mean, he's just so menacing in all of this. And again, once I was in the edit with this, I definitely started feeling better. I definitely started feeling, the ending works, And I remember even feeling excited now because I knew the ending. I still hadn't cut the ending, and I knew I really loved the very last shot of the movie. And Richard had given me this piece of music, which I loved it, and I knew it was going to work. It was the music was kind of creepy. It was very melancholy. It was always going to be a melancholy ending, and somewhat ambiguous and open ended. And I knew I was gonna cut to black. I'm one of these people. I have this weird thing that when I watch a film, it is the last 10 seconds that I'll kind of obsess over. Like it'll suddenly cut to black, or there's a big difference between cutting to black, or fading to black. And I'll always get back the last 2 minutes of a movie I love, and I'll watch that ending again. Like I don't know if you think of some really brilliant cut to black in movies like Evil Dead 2. Fight Club, or Herzog's Bad Lieutenant. It's just that there's something about it, and especially if there's a piece of music to accompany it, that really sells it. Southland Tales is a great one. I love Southland Tales. So I knew that I had my own ending. I had my own ending that I was going to be very proud of, and that if it was a film that I saw that I didn't make, once the film ended, I knew I'd probably get that back and I'd rewatch it. And I actually have done it. It's in the edit. It was once I cut it, and however I felt about the film, and I really hope I haven't shit all over it too much. But I guess the overall problem actually is that it's hard to separate the film from the filmmaking experience. That's probably what it all comes down to. The film itself is good, and it works fine, and I think it's good for a first film. So if I get to make another, I'll definitely build on it. But just the experience of it was just it was just tough going. It just seemed to be one thing after another. I think it was actually the producer Justin that was inside the wall cutting this, and I wanted the cutting to be different, just to maybe give a little bit of a hint that somebody else inside there. Because clearly, when Isaac was inside cutting it, he's making very steady headway. And then once it's this zombie Ema, once it's Olga's mom inside there, you can see that there's something gone off about it. That it isn't cutting as well. It is very undead like. A little bit like that's actually the way that's probably like me at work some mornings. It's going, oh God, I wish I was making movies. That's the same intercom as well. Again, we only had one. So we're just moving it around from room to room. This is good. I like the way Ben falls back. I think I actually ruined a take. I did. I ruined one of the last takes because I laughed. Very unprofessional. Ben just did this thing. He looked so scared, genuinely scared, and I just started laughing. I went, oh, but laughing like in excitement, like that kind of nervous laughter, I guess. We tried this every which way with Irma coming around the corner. Like we had her jumping out, running out, coming out at the camera screaming. And I hate that. It's not a horror trope. I hate is when the monster, the ghost, comes lunging at the camera. At the end it was like, no, we just very, very slowly lean out. It's horrible. From here is the best thing I've ever filmed. From here to the ending, like first of all, that's beautiful, and that's my home. That's West Cork. So I'm so proud to have such a nice shot of it. And then this thing is looking down into an old place in Bantry House, into an old little tunnel. And Jonathan's performance, the whole thing just cuts together, and the fact that the sound that Richard's score really leads the way. And actually, meeting Richard and Susie on this film was probably one of the things that really made the film worthwhile, despite how hard it was. And I know I won't complain about it if the film ends up giving me a career in filmmaking, but to have met them, I think, is one of the things. Is like I consider them like some of my best friends now. I love this. This is just one of my favorite shots in the movie. It's so strange. There's something very surreal about it. It's quite sad. I mean, there is something sad about it. I don't know what's going to happen to either one of them. I don't think he's clearly not going to let her there because he's such a nice guy. I mean, he even goes back to rescue the dog. So that's it. That's what it was all about. I mean, very quickly, the film is dedicated to Bill Leonard and Maria McKay. So Maria was Finton's girlfriend. She died when she was 33, and she was from New Zealand. It's very sad. She was looking forward to seeing the film, and she just suddenly got very sick, and she was gone. So I just wanted to dedicate it to her. And then Bill was a local Bantry man. He owned a bar called Ma Murphy's. It was this lovely. He was from Wales, and he'd lived in Ireland for years, and it was just this lovely bar. So I just wanted to dedicate it to two people that were always that were very nice to me and very encouraging of it, of this dream to make films. Because I mean, to make films, it is very hard. It is something of a ridiculous dream that so many people want to do, and they fail at, and it's something I've wanted to do for a long time. So I suppose with all that said, I shouldn't be fucking complaining about about how difficult the film was, considering the people that would love to be in this opportunity, that would love to have this opportunity to actually make a feature. But yeah, so the film was dedicated to Maria and to Bill. And that's it. All these credits were going to be like temporary, but they ended up just staying. I guess that's it. I don't know what else to say about the film. What else has a good cut to black? French Connection 2, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, District 9. There's not many. There's a film called Primer. It was made in the mid-90s, I think. And I think the film was made for like $7 or $8 grand. But the credits of that are hilarious. The credits start rolling and you think, okay, we're going to have a credit roll. And then they just stop. It's only like, because there's only 7 or 8 people that worked in it. And you see here all the names are McCarthy, my mom. I mean, if nothing else, if nothing else, the film is definitely evidence that I'm loved, because just about every person close to me sacrificed something to help me make it. It definitely wasn't financial, but in terms of their reward for it. So the only reward was to see me finish the film, and that's a lot of the people who see it here. Even our investors, our private investors that gave us the funding, Maria and Tom, they put no pressure on me. They were like, just, go at it. They had such faith in myself and Justin. And there's Bill and Maria. And Delia O'Sullivan is my grandmother. She said she prayed for us every day. So I gotta thank that still water and the sunrise and the sunset to her. And filmed at Bantry House. Thank you very much for listening.